Hi everyone and welcome. This is Neil Selvage from Neil Selvage Training Development and Assessment, and welcome to this 8th issue of our gas membrane installation NVQ level 2 bite-sized training. And hopefully today, we're drawing to an end on this unit now, so we are still in our 612, our initial unit, which is preparing to install gas membranes. And today we'll comply with the given contract information. So as I've been doing through all of these presentations, we're going to take a look at the standards initially of what our expectation, the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria are. So we can see the first two of the 6 subunits there are a demonstrate and install and connect. So these are very observational tasks that we will expect to see when we're out on site. So when we look at them, you can see demonstrate the following skills when preparing to install a gas membrane. And they're looking at protecting, laying, taping, welding, assembling, securing, as well as in section 2 there, install and connect venting medium. So this is a bit of a tricky one because some people don't get too involved with this. As I mentioned in the previous presentations, it's done by others, especially if there's a subfloor void. You have no control over that, but there could be elements where you're putting subfloor ventilation in, so that all forms into that unit there. So when we look at that unit, do you have everything you need? Can you take everything? So if you look at the products that you're going to have to carry, bit of an extreme example there of a van pickup overloaded, but the logistics of getting products to site, this is certainly preparing in, do you know what you've got to carry? Do you know how much you've got to carry? Also just simple things like having the right equipment on your van, so your generators, I've just put an example there of scissors for example. Can you do what you need to do? So pre-checking is one thing that I will question and ask learners about as we go through the assessment process. Have they considered that before they even go to site? And I've just put there at the bottom right the extreme case of having articulated lorries arrive on site. I've had many instances where logistics of the site, actually physically getting that lorry into a site, can be quite difficult. So you've got to overcome that. If you've got big rolls, especially your geotextiles that might be arriving, can you host them? Can you get them into site? I've had numerous problems. And again, we will talk about associated problems with that as well. Then we look at the preparing and looking at the drawings. I think this is a key part, looking at the areas you're going to work on, your expectations of how big is that area, how complicated is it going to be, what's it going to look like when you actually get there and physically put boots on the ground to start your work. So you can see here, we can see a bit of sand blinding and a bit of mesh going down. Bit of a crude example because where's the membrane going to go? Sometimes the builders you're working with will not fully understand the logistics of putting the gas protection system in. So you will possibly be asked that as you arrive on site, and you might spend your first 1, 2, 3 hours, if not longer, sorting out the logistics of how you're going to get your membranes in. So looking at that drawing is a key thing, which I will certainly ask you as an assessor of what your understanding is before you step foot on site. Then we move on to our third element, which is a describe. So we're back into the knowledge. So describe how to apply safe working practices, follow procedures, reporting problems, and establish the authority needed to rectify them. So pretty common sense things. You have a line of command that you will report back to your supervisor, and your supervisor might report back to your line managers back at the office. These could be operational managers, contracts managers, even if you need to report to your main contractor, your client that you're working for. So understanding how that sequence follows, but also things that you might identify at these early stage. So locate and protect services. They could be other people's services. There could be cables, there could be pipes, there could be parts of the structure that you have to consider. Not your responsibility, but you might have to consider it in your working method. Yeah, identifying the penetration points is always a good checkpoint. So when we go back to our drawings that we had earlier, do you know if you're going to get 1 or 20 pipes in a house plot? Do you know if there's going to be columns, stanchions that you're going to have to deal to? Because you might have to inform your office that you've arrived on site and there's 50 columns to seal to, but yet nobody's allocated maybe self-adhesive detailing materials to do that. So you've got to make that call. And as you can see, it goes on then to our venting products, where venting could be installed by people. prior to yourself, i.e. the ground worker, and it's not correct. The centres could be wrong. It might not comply with the specification of the drawing. The venting could be laid upside down. So they're all things that we're going to look at. Then we look at the fourth and the sixth element there. We've got safely use and store materials, and also describe and how to maintain the tools. So there is expectation here that the main tool that a lot of geomembrane and gas membrane installers will use is the trusted good old Leicester Triac heat gun. And here you can see an example that when you buy one of these, you get the box, so you're storing it correctly as it's been designed to carry it. You've got the items to work with it, so you've got your roller, you've got your correct nozzle, you've got a spare element in case it goes. And on the right we can see that there's some instruction there that comes with the tool of how you set it up, how you run it, what that information is on the screen. For example, on the new models they have a small digital screen. But knowing that, how long does it take to warm these things up? How long does it take to cool it down? So we will question that during your work. So it's not a case of just turning it on and putting it to full temperature. You might have to regulate that temperature according to the membranes that you're working with. So understanding that again is also very important. Then other tools that we're using, so we're looking here, power supplies. A lot of technicians will be using petrol powered or diesel powered generators, so using them. Later on in one of the other units we talk about environmental controls, so we'll expect to see that there'll be a drip tray put in place. You might be under restrictions of noise when you're working on site, so running your generator at 7 o'clock in the morning might not go down too well with your neighbours who are still residents in these properties. So you might have to curb the time that you can use it to set site times. And on the right there we can see some pack testing, or so we can see some mains power that's supplied through either power boxes or transformers. And the trusted little green stickers that should accompany all your plant and equipment on site that it's been pack tested. In support of that, some sites will also like to see evidence of a pack testing certificate as well. So the green ticket won't be sufficient on its own. You might have to back that up. Here we can see with a pack certificate that declares what the item is and the more thorough testing of that. So that's done by a competent person and also recorded, because that has to be held back with your office. Site appliances that are in regular use on a construction site, 3 months is the advisory inspection period for that. So that's something to look at with your supervisors. Check your tools. Is your pack testing up to date? You might have to query it back to your line managers, supervisors to get that completed if it hasn't been done so. Then the final one that we look at here is point 5, which is the needs of other occupations. So this is a state and describe. So we're looking at knowledge here again. So when you're on site, I think the gas membrane industry meets a lot of, we can see the bricklayers there. We can see other trades. We've got the scaffolder there in the centre. They will be putting a lot of their products very close, working near us. And also ground workers that we can see on the right, setting up maybe a foundation line or level, doing setting out of the work for us, as well as the site manager. These are all people within the team that we have to accommodate, we have to work with. So understanding the logistics of that, again, is another element that I will be looking at with you, talking you through. I might even encounter you, liaising with these various occupations to progress your work through. You might attend a pre-start meeting with them. You might attend inductions with them. You might have a chat with them in the canteen or on site. That might be your first point of contact. So just knowing who these people are, building relationships. So again, later on, we'll look at the site, productive site workings and relationships with other people on site. So again, hopefully that was a helpful little insight just to steer you in the right direction. Next week, all being well, I'm going to bring up our final issue of the unit, of this unit before we move on to 613, which is actually installing gas membrane. So we're going to be doing it. It's all going to kick off then. It's the start of one of the big units, but I've got a nice surprise about that one when we get to it. So hopefully you'll join me for that, all being well, next week. In the meantime, I'm here on my usual channels for you. So please, by all means, get in contact, and hopefully this is helpful. Look forward to seeing you and getting your feedback as we've been going on. And we're there through our regular channels. So thanks again for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot. See you now. Bye.